Hi everyone, and welcome back to yet another cracking edition, rather. Another edition? It's always cracking edition, you guys know that, of the Matt Brown Show. And this is obviously the Secrets of Fail series, where we are talking to business leaders and CEOs and entrepreneurs all about their epic business blunders. And with us in the hot seat today is the president of a cool company, which we just learned about, called Mark Taylor. And his name is John Carlson. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Matt. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Oh, mate, the privilege is all mine. So let's get into the details here, right? So let's kick us off with the elevator pitch. What exactly are you up to there at Mark Taylor?
Sure. Mark Taylor is a luxury, I'll say, developer and manager of apartment homes in both Arizona and Nevada. So we were founded in 1985 by Jeff, Mark, and Scott Taylor, thus the name Mark Taylor. We've developed just over 20,000 units since 1985. And currently manage about 25,000 Class A apartment homes in Arizona and Nevada, and we also consult. So that's the quick down and dirty of Mark Taylor.
Sounds very cool. So what's the property market doing at the moment with, because all I hear about is housing shortages and interest rates and, people not being able to afford the American dream.
Sure.
So what do you see on the ground, just top level?
Yeah, so certainly, we saw, and you've seen this in the media, from the COVID or pandemic through 2022 end of tremendous rent growth, and that was really a result of I'll say supply issues or supply constraints across the country. Today, we've evolved into what I'll say is more of a equilibrium or negative rent growth marketplace, specifically in Phoenix and Las Vegas. We've had a lot of supply that was delayed because of lots of things, right? Supply chain issues, labor shortages. So you've had I'll say a cresting of supply happening in 2023 and continuing into 2024 and 2025. And that's really across the country. So the good news is we've seen absorption rates remain really strong, very robust across the country. Obviously, it's different by submarket, but nonetheless, there's been some rent relief from a renter perspective, which has been great. Overall, the rents in Phoenix Metro are down just over 3% year over year, which is creating some more affordability as we know inflation's been an issue collectively across the country. So some good relief for renters, mind you.
Finally, right? Finally.
Why doesn't that every time?
So, we could spend a whole hour here talking about the property market, but obviously we don't have time for that on this series. So, John, what is your epic story of fail for our audience around the world today?
Well, I have many, Matt, but in preparation for this, I went back to my notes, and it was pretty easy to determine one I wanted to share. So I took over as president in 2016. And we really created I'll say a laundry list of things that we wanted to accomplish within our organization as we grew towards 2020 and beyond. And one of the things we put together and really created a rallying cry around was 20K by 2020. So 20,000 units by 2020. So we were about, just say 12,000 units and change under management in 2007 or 2017. And the idea being we wanted to really push growth. We had our vision and mission statements in place, but we felt like there was an opportunity based on the market fundamentals and cycle to really capture a lot more units than we typically would take on from a growth perspective. And we went as far as creating T-shirts and company events. It was always 20K by 2020. What I didn't realize was what kind of pressure that was going to put on the organization in terms of how that was presented. And really, I'll say there was a lot of folks walking on eggshells. And by 2019, we probably had the highest turnover we've had on record. And it really, I think at the heart of it came back to 20,000 units by 2020, which you just think about the mental anxiety of managers, asset managers, business development, everyone trying to just go, 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 go. As a foundational rally cry, and it did the opposite effect and really caused some interior harm to our culture and just kind of how we've always been as a people first company.
Sure, that's it's a crazy story. That's I mean, it's funny how there's unintended consequences of something that on the face of it didn't seem like anything untoward. In fact, it would be like, well, this is what we're aspiring to be, and obviously, as you've said, there was some unintended consequences there. So, John, curious to double click on what you learned from that whole experience. You know, when you think about that, what lesson do you now take forward, into the business today?
Well, I think, we've always been really in the marketplace known for our culture and our people. And, we had to take a step back in 2019 to say, okay, what things do we really want to focus on as an organization to ensure that we're successful long term? Because we really think about our organization in terms of being infinite. So if you've read Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game, we've been in business 38 years. Well, we want to be in business in perpetuity, so 40, 50, 60 years and beyond. And what we realized in that year was, okay, let's back up a step. Let's take a deep breath. Let's drop the acceleration cycle and say, okay, what really matters? And we created 3 strategic initiatives that we are still focused on today and will be in perpetuity. But it was thinking about the organization through people first lens. So it was people, excellence, and growth. And what we did in terms of investing in the organization, so we slowed down our growth purposely and said, okay, let's focus on the things that actually matter. And we said, let's invest more heavily in HR and learning and development. So let's really ramp up those 2 departments within our organization and then really create the right culture from the very first day of employment. So we revamped our entire onboarding process. We really focused on, what we're doing, the why behind it. I meet with our new hires every Monday purposely for about an hour to really discuss that, to ensure that they know where I'm coming from and that they know the direction we're going and the why. So I'd say fast forward to 2023, it's all people first. And what I can tell you, Matt, is what I've learned is if we would have done that initially, the units would have come, right? We're growing faster than we ever have today, but we have the right people, the right infrastructure in place, and our turnover is as low as ever because of that foundational aspect, that investment in both HR, human capital, and training. And I can tell you that folks recognize that there is a career path for them once they connect with Mark Taylor. The growth still matters, but it's always people first. And I think that resonates well with not only our long-term employees, but someone that's just stepping into this role or into real estate with Mark Taylor for the first time. And they're really finding a way to connect to the organization, which is one thing I challenge each new hire group with, like, what's your personal mission statement? If you don't have one, write one down over the next 90 days and then try to connect to Mark Taylor's mission statement. And if you can, you'll be successful and you'll be here a long time.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool. So tell me, John, if you could get into the Matt Brown Show time machine and kind of go back to yourself when obviously the wheels were falling off, so to speak, what would you do differently and why?
One of my personal mantras, and it's actually one of our principles, is be better than yesterday. So I think I would have moved more swiftly in terms of understanding what the dynamic or what I'll say the pressure I was putting on the organization. I would have been a better listener at the time, and certainly as being transparent as one of our founding principles, really listening to our entire organization, bottom up, top down, and just saying, what are you guys feeling? How does this strategy make Mark Taylor more successful? What things are we doing that are potentially pulling us back or hindering our growth? And I would have moved more swiftly. And I think, as I talk to many CEOs and presidents across the country, those instincts kick in, right? Those spidey senses. But it's how fast you move, right? Can you move and redirect? And I'm confident if I would have been, more able to listen to our culture, our people at the time, I would have been more swift to act and said, no, I got to hit pause here, right? It's okay to take a breath. We do it all the time, right? Okay, we need a breath here. That's what the culture is saying. And I would have immediately doubled down on our HR investment, our people investment, and learning and development. I was just a little bit slow at the time. So time machine, swiftly would have moved in that direction.
Very, very cool. And so, John, what's your advice to other CEOs, entrepreneurs out there about, the importance of failing, in figuring out how to become successful in whatever it is that you're trying to do in business?
Well, you know, the great Jordan Peterson. I love his books and his podcasts, and he'll always say there's real utility in humility, right? Because you have to say, you know what, I was wrong. I'm open to that. I'm not perfect, and just say, okay, what can I learn in this moment to really propel myself and our organization going forward? So I think humility matters. Being willing to listen to your stakeholders, to the people that actually genuinely care about an organization, listening to your employees, having a 360-degree transparent culture, so that if someone raises their hand, if it's a brand new service technician saying, hey, why are we doing things like this? I think there's a better way to do it. And us having the humility to say, oh, we don't have everything figured out. Let's listen as much as possible. If that's the right idea, it fits within the script of our foundational mission, vision, and our principles. Let's roll with it. And I think we have a really good organization in terms of creating that clear feedback loop. And without that, I don't know how you can be successful, because you have to listen. You have to understand how your culture is doing, because I think it's really hard to build a culture over time, but you can swiftly really break that down and eliminate some of the momentum you've had with a few bad decisions.
Mm. And you mentioned obviously Jordan's podcast as an example. Are there other like tools, resources, books, podcasts that you recommend?
I mean, I'm a diehard podcaster. So Matt Brown, of course, the Matt Brown Show. I love Jordan Peterson, all the greats. Lex Friedman is enjoyable because he has a lot of really deep, thoughtful thinkers. And I think that's helped me think about the world a bit differently. You probably saw Elon Musk's algorithm release most recently that the author Isaacson put out. I thought that was incredibly cool, hearing his story about how he slept in the tent of his manufacturing plant for 2 straight years, essentially, trying to get that Model S off the ground. So I think those are 2 great podcasters. I think, you know, anything Simon Sinek's great. I'm not saying he runs a bunch of businesses as a CEO, but does he have a lot of, I think, thoughtful, dynamic, I'll say, directions for CEOs to think about. It doesn't mean we have to go down those pathways, but I think the infinite game matters most to me, because that really puts us in a position to think long term. You know, we're not making immediate decisions. We're not a public company. We don't have to think quarterly. We got to make, you know, the numbers work for this quarter. So we're investing today to ensure that we're successful tomorrow. And I think that's a great foundation for success long term.
Very, very cool. And of course, you've got your own podcast launching, I believe, later this week, right?
In October, actually, Multifamily Forward. So yes, we've wrapped basically every episode with the exception of one. We'll finalize that this week, and we'll start launching them in 2 weeks increments in October.
Very cool, buddy. It's the best thing you'll ever do is running a show. Yeah. Trust me, it's the best thing ever, man. But look, John, thanks so much for coming on the show, for lending your perspective. That unfortunately does conclude your time in the hot seat. Appreciate you lending your perspective, and congrats on turning everything around and building such a successful business and culture at the end of the day. So thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the time.
Everybody else, we'll see you again soon. Cheers for now.